Oh boy, I sure love my money, as I am a greedy, evil YouTube man, and I will surely pump out the third part to this Diablo 2 Mercenary only challenge almost immediately. It won't be literally almost a half fucking year later. Hello audience, please accept my sorry. I'm sorry, I am now back with the milk. Yeah, in the vein of Lazy Larry, I've been lazy about depicting the final chapter to this little challenge of mine. If you haven't been waiting patiently and therefore have no idea what I'm talking about here, this is fairly good game Diablo 2, and I have this Necromancer where he gets cream corned all day, opting to let the Mercenary Extraordinaire Niraj handle every and all encounter. If you are just joining for the finale in the Hell difficulty, the rules of the challenge are simple. I was allowed to pick any class and use any ability to supplement my Mercenary, of which could have been any of the 4 types, but I can never inflict direct damage to anything myself, and as such I have never attacked a single time up to this point. And I will continue to not attack at this point either. That would be a big cock of an ending, I would say. For your viewing understanding, the breakdown of all my abilities is under 2 umbrellas, the curses and the big bones. Now, my curses have great functionality in making my Mercenary far safer. For large-scale scary encounters, I can give either Life Tap, a curse which makes physical damage leech an incredible amount of health, or Decrepify, which makes an afflicted target take more damage and attack much more slowly. If I am not overly concerned with the target, I bust out Amplify damage, which makes the target take a ton more, but has no defensive properties like Decrepify. For the bones, it's quite simple. I can piss bones out. It's a problem. I'm seeing somebody, but if the field is scary, it's becoming an apartment complex, and if that fails, I'm at least covered in bone armor, which means I can't die as easily as my poor Mercenary. There's 2 videos covering normal and nightmare already if you wish to see the exploits of the past, but today is the present, and presently I'm moving around like a slug, chugging potions to survive narrow hallway encounters, and since I have a few more million gold than I've ever had before, it's time I buy myself a teleport staff. This has been mentioned by commenters, and thank you by the way, and to this point I have not had enough cash on hand to actually buy and use one of these for most of the playthrough. To clarify, a teleport staff is a magic item you can farm from vendors, and it gives you the skill teleport with a bunch of charges. To refill the skill charges, it costs like 50,000 gold each time, so it wasn't a purchase I could make until now-ish, considering I've had to pawn my pants and all other clothing items to revive my good friend and only source of game-winning Niraj. So now we have a teleport staff and we're ready to dip our toes into the bowels of hell. And guess what? Replace a few nouns in that sentence to the enemy is, their dick, and my ass, and that would be an apt description for how this starts off. Now, up till now, we've had some laughs, we've had some tears, we've had some dead Mercenary being lugged back to town over 200 times. It's been a great load of fun, but now it's getting a little more painful. Firstly, we need to correctly identify that our Mercenary is trash and garbage and ass. We have correctly realized that Niraj is a lump of clay that is yet to be molded and currently only being folded by every and all demonic being out there. So step 1 is to gather some better gear. As of now, this is what Niraj is rocking. With a bone prison blanket and a warm glass of amplified damage, he is able to be 5% as good as the average Hell Clan member, but it's a start. I figure we can try to get some RNG good gear, like maybe a higher level unique item or maybe a good rune. Really, I figure if I can BS my way until Act 3, I can fully get gear online for Niraj, since we don't have to accomplish anything in a clean manner. Considering I'm not playing on hardcore, we can grind our way to the finish line, but there are some things to remember. Resurrecting the Mercenary costs a lot of gold per death, which isn't a large-scale problem right now, but could easily become a thing if we suck too hard. Bosses do regenerate, so I can't start fights and not finish them. If we get to an encounter, I really need to hang around until one of us is dead, and it'll probably be us. For Hell, the 5-act bosses are easy to rank in terms of severity. Diablo and Duriel are remarkably bad encounters, as they will shred my Mercenary no matter what I do, especially Diablo. And Duriel, Mephisto, and Bael are all comparatively easy wins, but getting past their preliminary fights will be very challenging. Finally, the worst part is that we have to face the 3 Ancients, as you cannot return to town to resurrect the Mercenary if he dies. The fight is 3v1 and he will reset if I leave. Plus, they are designed to body players, let alone the feeble, tiny, non-human Niraj. So, to mitigate the boss's difficulty, we need gear with Crushing Blow, which takes away a portion of my enemy's life per hit, which is a lot when we're talking about bosses. In addition, defenses are imperative, with a lot of specific rune words and uniques helping with that. I figure I could look around Act 1 for gear, but the time it takes me to kill the average enemy is below average, so I start losing interest in using Act 1 to look for gear. I'm already eyeballing Nightmare Act 5, maybe some Bael runs, maybe run L-Bitch the Re-Dickhead, anything but trying to fight the 15 Yetis coming to kill me. Like, look at this nonsense, as I run around building a village of bone walls and Niraj can't handle anything, and then the train of huge-ass Yetis just keep coming. I end up finding an amazing Grand Charm for someone who's actually playing the game, but Larry doesn't do shit, so that's sad. And this properly illustrates that I'm going to find the wrong items even if I do get lucky. At the moment, I'm sitting on a nice pile of runes with a few mid-tier ones at my disposal. I'm currently entertaining the notion of building a few specific rune words, and that's what Act 3 is good for. As previously seen in Act 3 Nightmare, Lower Kurast is a farm that doesn't require killing monsters. Instead, it's a location with healthfully placed super chest spawns, which have been described both in my last part and better by smarter people, but here it is. This is the cliff notes. Super chests have predefined drops based on the difficulty up to a very high integer, like 65,535 options. Some nerd number, and among those drop tables are some very good runes and will be, quote, guaranteed way to get good gear. The only problem is it just sucks complete ass to do it. Most of what we're thinking about making is for Niraj, but if we happen to get a Jaw and Burr rune, the 3rd and 4th rarest runes in the game, I can make an Enigma for myself, giving me the ability to teleport all the time. Teleportation is probably the best defensive ability for the Mercenary, as when you teleport, it teleports your Mercenary to your location, meaning I can actually move him. This would obviously be great, but it's not going to happen because if I actually did find a Bear rune, I would be slapping that into an amazing body armor for Niraj, Chains of Honor. This is a long shot item, but it would be massively powerful, giving me tons of defense with a bit of added offensive bonuses to help as well. In terms of weapons, there's a lot of choices, but the only realistic one is Obedience, an absolutely insane rune word for the stats, giving me nearly 400% enhanced damage. Plus, it procs enchant for itself, meaning the weapon gets even more fire damage. And finally, 40% crushing blow is so remarkably bullshit on a weapon of this cost that it's without a doubt the goal. As it only requires a foul rune as its highest cost, we will surely be able to farm this one out. Unfortunately, of course, the other component of rune words is having an amazing base item to use, and I have dick in that department, so we'll be hitting the odd coat rack and urn for a chance to find a big stick. Currently, all we're doing is sucking ass. The two of us loaded to the gills with money, and deloaded to some other part of the body with no power. Niraj struggling to handle ice spells, so what chance do we have of actually defeating Duriel and Duriel? In the grand hierarchy of demons, ice spell is shit. Motherfucker's more like ass smell, you know what I'm saying? Don't forget this guy's clapping my ass right now. Even with all my curses, my good friend gets turned into the human rug, so I start having doubts about this whole rush to Act 3 business. I go and find Rakanishu, and dude's been in the gym because he's absolutely scary as shit now, using his massive Chad aura to kill Niraj, and despite farming him, I just drop a bunch of magic items I don't need or want. So overall, just a quick bank deduction for me. I find a frickin' unique longbow as my first drop that could have been exciting, so that's good. I love that. Yeah, great to see that. I leave that trash on the ground like a boss. Look at that. I can't be bothered. I also want to mention that my frail, poor Necromancer body is incredibly frail and poor, as it turns out, as I nearly die to simple mistakes constantly. Like, look at that chunk taken from my ass here. That's a big hole. Not that one. The metaphorical is what I'm pointing at. And here's a fun example of a lot of battles in hell, but this group of extra strong bow women have the might aura, and without bone walls literally giving them 0 pixels of moving space, we might as well be standing in front of 17 machine guns, because look at Niraj's health with just a few mobs shooting at him. They also drop nothing good, of course. At this point, I just need to get to Duriel and try to clear the act as painlessly as possible. Niraj just has to fight and die as much as he can. I have the money. I can rebuild him as soon as we can grab... I stopped writing. There's no script there. As soon as we can grab my cock, we'll be alright. After recreating the opening to 28 weeks later, running away from everything, I stopped fucking writing again. Oh no, I did. I continue. I find myself in terrible fights, and we're back to Cassia with another medical bill, and then back into the field, and I'm just getting killed. It's a mess. Like the script. As an idea, I head over to the pit, which is a 2-floor dungeon and is one of the best locations in the game for farming high-level gear. Now, usually people run the entire thing in about 45 seconds to 1 minute, and they run it several thousand times for good measure. It takes me and my good old pal like 9 minutes and several deaths to get through here, and I get nothing at all. I do actually find this blue ghost spirit, which is an elite base, and it's unfortunately not what we could have benefited from. Some life leech instead of mana leech for no mana Niraj over there would have been great, but what can you do? I try really hard to enjoy myself as I cram us into the literal walls with bone wall and just wait to see if we won't pop like balloons from everything, but we die badly, so yeah, we're not gonna farm this again. But you know what? Let's keep gambling. It's the Forgotten Cellar, where the Countess resides with guaranteed rune drops. Again, there's no bases in my big stash, but that's a secondary problem. We can try for a cool rune to move along the gearing idea. The entire world ends for me, Niraj, and out of the game I do go. Once I finally get down to the basement, we earn ourselves a little Ortal, and I lament doing this. Approaching the monastery, I have to employ the NASCAR circle strat to corral the mobs out of our way, and we head inside to approach Duriel. Once inside, I'm not stopping. It's not worth hitting anything in here, especially the large Chad Smith just waiting with his heraldric phallus. We make it to the inner cloister, and the enemies rapidly attempt to enter our inner cloisters, and we skedaddle down the stairs towards Andy. It should be mentioned that we are receiving terrible experience gains. There's hardly anything I can bother waiting around to kill, so we're hard locked into the low 60s for the moment, which is bad news. I'd like to get stronger. I reach the bottom of the catacombs, and of course, after a grueling and butt-sucking walk, we're confronted with a gruel-sucking butt of a room filled to the brim with tainted and zombies, everything to make the fight with Duriel as tedious as possible. Plus, to be honest, there's a lot of stress with even the Fallen and their shaman because Niraj doesn't prioritize the guys who resurrect. The AI is literally just 2 lines of text that read Unga and Bunga. And since the powerhouse ghouls in here are too much to handle, I have to cement... I wrote cement with S. I have to cement them with an ocean of bone wall, and that makes my bone much more limp, to be honest. Then begins the fight with Duriel, the mistress of mistreating beating me, and after I return to town and give Niraj an almost lethal dose of purple Gatorade, we have immense poison resistance and stack up to take an easy W. It's legitimately anything but the most frustrating, scary, and annoying boss encounter ever, as I just fruitlessly try to pin the two of us into a makeshift bone arena and let the two fuckers wail on each other. I figure I can segment Duriel from Niraj with a little wall. Her poison attacks will just get stuck on that, and his Chad melee attacks will reach over, and this vaguely works. It's all, it's grand. Plus, I have a little technique of superior brain power by swapping Niraj's insight weapon out for his strength one, as strength has great crushing blow and insight just does a fixed high amount of damage. So I just stand there and hand him sticks and juice as he plays with his friend. After a while, Duriel dies, getting rid of one of the blockades between this part of the game and good gear. Duriel drops shit, by the way, so don't even ask, don't even wonder about it. It wasn't a good outcome. So I think it's worth debriefing about each act, and the question is whether or not I have accomplished anything here, and no, I did not. Thanks for asking. We got a few levels out of this, and I only spent like 250,000 gold total, so we're okay. Really, this is just a bide time moment as we wait to get to Act 3 and just sit in the jungle for 20 years. It's very nice to be back in Niraj's homeland, which just happens to be Shitville. Again, we have very little agency in fights, so I run around past all the leapers and the spear cats and garbage just looking for the path forward. Larry here doing his best car impression as I just run around hundreds of enemies, Niraj being in some extremely distant place on the screen. Genuinely, calling all Diablo 2 players, how often have you seen run energy in the red in hell difficulty? It proves how weak my old man legs truly are. We arrive at the far oasis, and this time I'm not as worried about the maggot lair as I have that handy teleport staff, which will just make it a matter of flying around until I can open the golden chest and plunder a little staff of kings. Of course, as opposed to being a metaphorical dump in the plumbing, slowly oozing out to the larger rooms. There are less disgusting metaphors I could have made to explain that point, but I didn't. You are welcome. Plus, I can't even clear the dungeon this time, as the black locust enemies are immune to physical, and the resetting necessary to get lucky and avoid them spawning would be wild. So bam, right through the wall into the chest, grab myself a little staff, and out we go, ready to get anally smashed by the snakes. There are far less disgusting metaphors I could have made to explain that point, but I didn't. You're welcome. The Claw Viper Temple is home to some of the most painful enemies in Diablo 2, but I've got my bone armor, so I'm not terribly worried. Plus, teleport breaks this dungeon as well, allowing me to skip the super unique boss in here, who usually just turns me into wallpaper with his attacks. We restock and get ready for the Palace Cellar, which is completely disinteresting, bottom 5 dungeon of the game, and then the Arcane Sanctuary, one of the most interesting dungeons, and probably also the shittiest one by far, other than the big bug asshole, but that's already done. Although this run is still awful, even when just quite legitimately cheating with teleport. If you're not in the know, you have to get lucky in here with one of the 4 random paths. Only one direction lies the summoner who guards the portal to the final part of Act 2. All in all, it's a big whatever. Watch me deal with this dickhead. Now it's time, one of our very annoying challenges to complete hell without swinging a single time. Duriel, Lord of Prostate Pain, and it's here we employ the grand architecture. I just build a box like he's a rat. It is not pretty, but I guess the job done. Niraj has trouble walking up to him, but he manages to get in close and is folded immediately. Great, my plan sucks ass. So yeah, my Mercenary is giving Duriel that kill streak bonus because it's like over and over again I come in here and he wrecks my good friend. The walk back and forth between the greasy kitchen brewing new mercs in the back and Duriel's home teleport is insufferable. It's a gauntlet of watching this poor guy get trounced, just praying he stabs Duriel once or twice before he dies. I try a new strategy where I let Duriel beat on my massive ass, which allows Niraj more time to get damage in before we have to zip back to town, and it works far better, and I realize the best bone wall is the one inside my own body. We keep this up for a long time. I took too much Viagra, and it's going fine. I'm happy, but I'm also horrified. But the fact is, we can slowly churn this fight out with our combo strategy, my thickness and his stickness. The final sliver of Duriel's health is so immense it takes like 9 back and forth walks to go over and kill him, and he actually puts me down, you little bitch. Eventually he falls, opening the way to the swamp that nobody likes, and on his way to the ground he drops a few useless yellow items and a unique truncheon which can't be equipped by Niraj and therefore does nothing for me. Sad day. But having this hurdle pushed away is wonderful news, as it's now only a matter of time for me to farm gear that will propel me to the end of the game. In terms of this act, we accomplished nothing at all except getting that teleport staff. That was cool. Here we are again in Act 3, the place that no one enjoys spending any time in, and I'll be spending by far the most time in. There is a 0% chance I hang around any location for any reason, because experience, money, and items are all far better found up north in Lower Kurast, the location with those handy super chests we've previously discussed. Unfortunately, there's remarkable opposition to me actually making it north enough to get to Lower Kurast, and things like gloams keep killing me. Even the little gremlins are lethal, proving how behind we truly are in terms of actually beating the game. Eventually, I reach Lower Kurast and start hunting for a decent layout, as there are a few caveats for how this farm charm works. Super chests spawn in these specific huts, which are 100% spottable if you know what you're looking for. It's this design on the mini-map. The best you can hope for is getting the waypoint to spawn next to 2 separate chest spawns, giving you 4 chests total per game. So from the character select screen, you enter the world, go to the waypoint, and do a small circle to hit all 4 chests, take anything good, and restart. Do it like 1,000 times, and Bob's your uncle or somebody else. I don't know who your uncle is. It's probably Bill or Buttbrain Bullshit Ben. Whatever your uncle is, it doesn't matter. Get onto the grind. I start looking around and I already find a rune, the first of many, and it's L rune, which quite literally takes the L, and if you want to know where that's the most common and garbage rune I could have found, so good. Love being spooned some fantastic luck right off the start. There's also some logs and stuff here to pop as well, so I end up hitting all sorts of things to bolster my chances. Sadly, in hell difficulty, there's a lot of groups of monsters everywhere, and death is something that will occur if I'm unlucky or overly brave, 2 of my best qualities, and considering how much I plan to get blasted randomly, I opt to send the Raj on vacation at this time, as I slave away for his lazy ass. I end up getting a very convenient 1 camp spawn and decide to just stick it out with this until I get bored, as not risking death for just another couple chests is a good idea. We are off to a mediocre start, and I didn't mention this, but my money situation is much worse than when we started. I have dropped over 1.2 million gold, and we're not even really to the bad blenders in terms of probable deaths from the Mercenary, so Lure Crass will at least greatly improve my financial situation. And then I get eaten by Doom Apes. And on run 50-ish, I get myself a pole rune, a very solid mid-game item that will help me get closer to something. What that is, I don't know yet, but no one skips picking these up, let me tell you. I wanted to mention and brag, I had a brief moment of brain deadlessness where I became inexplicably moderately smarter and decided to make myself a Harmony Bow rune word. For a relatively cheap cost, I can grab this bow, which gives me an aura that makes me run speedily, something that will greatly assist as I run to these chests thousands of times. I find this fine large charm, and that's really great. Wish I cared, I throw it in the garbage. Then I find a stupid ass unique elite shield that's not really good for anything, but it's a rare drop out of a stash, not even coming out of the super chest itself. More things to put in the trophy case though, so it's fine. After 100 or so more runs of this, I decide to look for a more ideal camp setup and re-roll the map to find it. Takes a few attempts, but I land on one I'm satisfied with, and it means I'll be able to grab 4 chests per reload much more easily. First good find in a while, a 3 open socket Balrog skin, an elite base that would make my Mercenary a happy, safe man. I should take this time to indicate what exactly I'm looking for, and I'll update you whether or not I find what I need. Primarily, the Mercenary could stand to benefit the most from a big weapon, and as we talked about earlier, obedience is without a doubt the best pickup for my budget, and will be the goal in this category. Of course, if I happen to find the rarest rune that drops here like 12 times, I could make a Breath of the Dying or a Last Wish, both being ridiculously good, but that's not gonna happen. If I somehow get a bear rune to begin with, I will stick it into body armor like Chains of Honor, or maybe an Enigma if I also find a Jaw rune. There is a 0% chance this happens. Also, currently, as another problem, I have no good weapon bases, so I keep hitting racks hoping for a 5-socket elite polearm of any description. Otherwise, I'm not going to have any use for these runes at any point. For a reasonable choice of body armor, I figured there's a few good options. I currently have a relatively low defense Treachery, which is a very good rune word regardless, as it gives the Mercenary the ability to have Fade, and Assassin skill, which is incredibly good for defenses. I don't mind the notion of strictly upgrading the base for more defense and keeping Treachery, and on the off chance I find something like a low rune, I could make Fortitude, which would give me an awesome amount of increased damage in addition to massive defenses. So really, there's a lot of good bomby armors. There's a lot of good bomby armors, and I already have a decent one, so if I get my weapon sorted out, I'll be less inclined to farm exclusively for armor. In terms of a helmet, it's less important overall. There's 2 great unique helmets I don't expect to find, and Duriel's Visage and Vampire's Gaze. I'm not sure if they can drop anywhere out of openable chests, but if I come across them, that would be beautiful. I would also be extremely pleased with Guillemy's Face, or whatever the fuck the dude's name is, but that set helmet gives insane damage increasing stats. This could probably be found coincidentally, but we'll have to get fairly lucky. In terms of rune words, there's not a lot of good ones for Mercenary helmets, so I'll play it by ear and see what drops. Finally, the last major upgrade I could reasonably get via rune words would be Call to Arms, a one-handed item that bestows the user battle orders, a barbarian skill that gives the party a lot more health. If 1 Ohm rune drops, which is a pretty high up there one to be honest, I will be able to give us both a massive buff. After like 35 more runs, I find a Foul rune, giving me a step towards an improved Treachery and an Obedience. I find an item that rolled 1/2 of the properties needed to be one of the most bullshit rare and expensive items in the game, game, which would have been the Ruby Jewel of Fervor, but this is simply Beryl. Oops, all Beryl. Then in one run, I find a Foul Rune and an Rune, which is a little crazy. Casually finding one of the best Amazon weapons in the entire fucking game from a coat rack, which is legitimately insanely rare, so that sucks. Casually finding yet another remarkably rare elite item from a stump, which is legitimately insanely rare, so that sucks even more ass. This was also like 2 runs later. I see the Doom Ape group, which I love. They're great music, which lives up to its name by being both very ape and very doom. And even though I get the chance to check the chest, I, for some reason, decide to just return to the game, and I die in a fucking frame I do so. This chest drops a bunch of stuff, and I'm killed with shit in my hands, clutched around a small charm with probably +1 life on it. Sorry, it's actually +20. It's a perfect roll. Okay, it was worth it. Cool. Then I find a gold dagger, which is one of the unique items of the treasure class 3 department, which is the lowest in the game, and counterintuitively enough, that means it's extremely rare, as its best chance to drop is from normal Act 1. And for the fact it came from a hell weapon rack is ridiculous. And it's ethereal, which means it's 10 times rarer than a regular variant. So yeah, that was like 9 bear runes worth of luck down the drains. That's lovely. It's a sick item though to stick in my trophy case and up my asshole when no one's looking. I find a great hauberk, which lives up to his name. It's a great base, and I would love to stick some stones in this here great hauberk, but the stones I can't seem to get any of. This run is designed to get me runes, but it's giving me other shit instead. We're numerous runs in and numerous hours in at this point, and we have gotten like 3 fouls, so yeah, the grind lives on. I then find another very uncommon, extremely nearly unbelievably good item, a +2 skills assassin tiara with run, walk, cast rate. It's a very pretty looking item, much like me, but yeah, I don't need it. Trash can, garbage, sad day. Again, put it in my stash to remember what was almost was. Find a fucking Lenny Mo. That's another treasure class 3 item. Using this calculator, I can determine that this item dropping from a regular monster in hell difficulty is a 1 in 5 million, but I don't know what the random coat rack odds are. But still, even if they're 10 times better than that, that's still 1 in 500,000. So that's ass cheeks. Thank you very much, kid. Now I'm getting vaguely pissed off. I'm not, I'm acting. But the truth is, I have found things that are so much more random, so rare, and completely useless to me that it's just like depressing. It's far easier to find decent runes doing this, not so much the random trophy pieces that I will never use. And then I find an ethereal cryptic axe with no sockets, with a bing, yeah, boop, bad. Check one off the list. We now have our base for obedience. Because since we didn't roll any sockets on this item, we can bring it to Larzuk, my dick, and he will automatically give me 5 sockets on this as a quest reward. Now, all we need is the 5 runes, and we can make the best potential weapon we'll have for this run. Alright, I'll save you some trouble. The next 100 plus runs are trash, and I am desperately holding several of my body parts in extreme anticipation of the moment a high rune actually drops. I have received Bubkiss for so long at this point. You like that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, point is, I have received so little for so long at this point, it's getting dire, but I hit a random log and I grab a Lem rune, which is weird. That's quite rare, but I'll take it. And it is the omen of all time, because the next chest I smack and boom, there it is. Thank you, sir. I'll take this, sir. And guess what? Despite sir being the 5th highest rune in the entire game, it's actually complete dog ass. There's so few rune words that actually include sir, and fewer that are desirable, meaning that the only use it has is being 1/2 of a bear rune. But that means I would have to find another sir, which considering how long it took me to get this one, I have no interest in doing that, so I want to make myself a monster of a weapon and keep going forward at this point. And if things prove to be impossible, I'll head back and do more of this fun. I make myself a Scarab Husk Treachery in order to keep myself like 15% safer. That's fucking hard. 3 times fast? Scarab Husk Treachery, Scarab Husk Treachery, Scarab Husk Treachery. And then it's time to put together the runes for obedience, and believe me when I say it, looking at this big stick feels good. It might be obvious because it's a literal tidal wave of stats, but this thing is very powerful. It's without a doubt the best weapon we can reasonably make, and with it, I'm ready to go find Skeletor, Diablo, and Ball Sucker and teach them a lesson. Well, Niraj, well, I'll just watch in the closet, doing unsavory things. Immediately, the difference is night and day. Niraj is choke slamming bitches. He's got that Rocky montage energy. He's back and one-shotting mobs, reminiscent of the good old days. And then this pant-dumping moment transpires, and all that power means nothing. I decide to cap off my mercenary strength by going to town and crafting a little old helmet, and it's a pretty nice piece, giving him a bit of life on hit, a good chunk of deadly strike, and some sizable defensive stats. This bucket from the pier is the last thing that I'll ever bestow to my good friend, unless I can't beat the game, in which we'll be back to this area swamping around the place. I go about assembling the necessary organs from DJ Kaleem to progress to the Endurance of Hate to finish Act 3, and it's grand, it's great, oh my. It really is though, I love this stick and its damage output. As always, the sewers is literally dump. Then the council fight is scary as hell. Instantly there's flaming meteors raining down, there's big clowns coming around, there's Hierophants healing without a sound, there's enemies under the ground, there's fires and flames and shit all over town. The point is that it's difficult and death hits Niraj all too much. Oh, it's the Durance of 8, the place with Stygian dolls around every rock. Place sucks my dick. Fairly uneventful Durance until I reach Mephisto's locale, and we can really put our new rune words to the test. Against the preliminary council battles, Niraj is fairly squishy, but has that glass cannon build, so it's actually tolerable. I'm still here with the bone prisons when they end the decrepify. I'm having to use a brain to make the dumbass leave by going to town, so you know, our duo is dynamic. Then I'm over here in the side room minding the business of these demon fucks as Niraj kills them when the sudden Mephisto jump scare happens with him being over here for the first time ever in my Diablo 2 playthroughs. I decided to go proc both mine and Niraj's body armors, giving us both fade, which should make the fight against Mephisto far easier. This is a rare actual good Seer idea moment, so savor it. It's not happening much again. The battle continues, and it's time to send this fuck to hell, but he'd like that, so instead it's time to rip his stone out of his ass and beat it with a large hammer, destroying his soul for eternity until some girl finds his destroyed and shouldn't exist soul in a new rock and then carries it all around for no reason. Imagine if that happened. Imagine Diablo. And speaking of which, it's time for Diablo, so I collect my nothing good from the drops and scour the room and I head out. For Act 3, we have become mighty and our power is far superior to every other point in this challenge. At this point, all we need to do is build walls and have enough money to resurrect Niraj as he sticks his stick into everything. That's how you get fucking syphilis, my friends. Shut it, boy. Alright, good to see you, Jamela. Good to see you, Halboom, you motherfucker. Alright, I'm on my way to see the local landowner, Diablo, and as such, I don't stop to smell the hung skeletons. I prefer to call them the well-endowed skeletons myself, but yeah, I don't need to do anything except run to the river of flame. I additionally have no interest in fighting Izual, as skill points are low on my list of needs at this moment. Plus, he's built like a wall, and I don't feel like beating on him all day. By the way, I get to have that wonderful experience in D2 where you just have to explore the entire map to find a singular staircase, and yeah, it takes me forever. This is just a bitching point. It's not even really interesting. This probably happened to you the last time you played this game, but still, I felt like mentioning it. Once here, I want to go take a look at the Hellforge to receive a random decent rune drop, and unfortunately, I realized that I cannot reasonably skip past the enemies in this place. The walkways are narrow, my patience is thin, and my lower extremities are massively wide, so I will battle, and of course that always just means Niraj will battle, and it takes a really long time, so thanks for nothing near. Also, it's gotten redundant at this point, and it goes without saying, but I have to resurrect my Mercenary a lot as he fights like this. A lot of these orientations are brutal, so yeah, my money situation gets a lot more dire as we go on. I just don't feel like putting a number on the screen this time to constantly inform you about how bad off we are in this economy. Can't even buy eggs for myself. I can't even buy milk. The fight with Mephisto is comically bad. I mean, look at this. I'm just barricaded by bones standing in a corner, and Niraj is out in the sea of mobs fighting to the death. Even when sped up, this footage is like 7 minutes long. And what really fricks my butt is that I get a goal rune, which is a really great drop as it's the rarest rune from the Hellforge, except it doesn't matter. It's another Seer rune situation. 2 of these would make a far superior rune with Vex, but even Vex holds a limited amount of interest to me alone. 2 Vexes would make an Ohm, and that would be insane. I'd instantly get a rune word that supplies me and Niraj with massive health pool increases, but yeah, Pipe Dream, Goal Rune is just another trophy. Now that we're in the Chaos Sanctuary proper, I have a few concerns that I will fret over. First, you actually take a deranged amount of damage from random encounters, so I'm clutching my wallet with horror in my eyes at all times. Secondly, the Seal bosses have a range from moderately scary Ghost to Infector of Souls to Lord the Shits in my face, so I decided to go and endure Infector first, and the fight ends up being like I'm standing over a very hot stove as a group of very scary demons shoot pillars of flame from their mouths. It's very hard to endure that damage. Still, with bone walls and daintily approaching the battlefield, we can slowly and safely take down this group. Lord Desace is always the problem child with his fanaticism aura and massive damage output, but the good news is that I can quite literally make an entrapping square around the entirety of his group, meaning that he's fairly easy, which is kind of a blue balls moment. I expected more, but you know what? It's fine. We have collectively died probably 400 times, so it's high time that we aren't dead for once. For that reason, the final Seal boss of the Grand Vizier of Chaos, who's ordinarily the easiest of the 3 demi-bosses, is not a worry at all, and we pop him like a balloon. As soon as he dies, Diablo spawns, and let me show you how fun this is. Watch this. Yeah, that's Diablo. I now have to walk back through the River of Flame, which is annoying, but at least your Mercenary gets to respawn with all their gear, so quite literally, this is how the game normally is for me. I'm just a fair bit squishier. Back inside for the battle, and Diablo knows he's in a video right now because he's showing off, just spamming the huge AoE move that could kill me as I try to recover my body and get the fight moving again. Everything assembled, we're back to trying to damage the big man himself, and Niraj gets literally fucking annihilated in 1 frame. Just as I go back to town in the portal, I peer out to see my guy getting turned into a pie. So another resurrect for me. Diablo Diablo 2 Mirage Resurrected. The good news is that our offense is so massive now that this fight isn't going to be intolerably long, and without RNG, Diablo can be with his attacks that can miss for some reason. We are absolutely shredding his HP. Back and forth a bunch of times as we get down to the iconic sliver of health before he kills my friend again. K, thanks, hang on, I'll build another friend, and we go back one more time and get the job done. Getting a drop of a unique Grim Shield and Grim Scythe, which is pretty cool, but sadly neither item means much to me. Funnily enough, the Scythe has +3 to Necromancer's skill levels, which is normally the worst thing to ever have on a polearm, but I could use it for the boost to my curses and walls. I don't, as a shield is far superior than my bones being more calcium rich, but it could have been useful. Now we have done it, Act 4 down, and we have accomplished getting a rune that's rare and useless, and actually getting to see some unique items, which has been an annoying rarity since we started this run. It's down to the final act, with the Ancients being the only thing I have any doubts about. As per usual, I run very north very fast without stopping, as I don't care about quests on the way, even Anya. This is a save yourself moment. I'm sorry, I've got bigger fish to fry. I try my metal on El Bitch the Redeemer as usual, and I'm annoyed how challenging this randomly is, but it's nothing we can't handle with a large amount of strawberry jam jars, and you know, he drops nothing. That's par for the course. We move up and out, and I love the role playing of having to wait for the gentleman Niraj to come and open the doors for me by stabbing them to death, of course. I keep running into snags, like the game is trying its damnedest to not lose to a guy who never does anything at all, with unique groups of enemies being absolute menaces, forcing me into corners and hiding and peeing my pants. It's awful. More running north until we bump into Thresh Socket, a classic enemy to farm for good gear, and we give it a moment to roll the dice. You know, I walk too close for a second though, and Thresh takes a massive, literally unbelievably big socket out of my ass, so I don't make that mistake again. Crowbill. Crowbill. Good to see you, thank you, take care, see you later, oh dear God help me. Akin to Frodo Baggins, we arrive at Mordor, so that's exciting. You can't fucking hate that joke, come on. Finally, in the Ancient's Way, I decide to look around for the waypoint, as having to walk back here is out of the question. It would take half an hour, and I'd probably die 10 trillion times without doubt, so getting the waypoint is my insurance policy against the Ancients dunking on me. And it does happen, I actually do get dunked on. I'm glad I had a brain on this one. We find the doorway to the boss fight, and here's the obligatory stock up on tons of potions. Like I've said, you can't return to town without resetting this battle, so you need to not run out of health or mana pots at any point. So people commonly buy an abundance of them and then drop them in the arena, which persists for a while. After that, I go and get Fade to proc on the two of us, giving us just an added layer of defense. Alright, here we go. Attempt 1. Hit the altar and it begins. I have an idea to put each of the Ancients in a timeout cage, which works to some extent, but Madok, he can throw his axes over the wall, and if you're off screen, it drags all the people out of the bone prison, so that's no good. You gotta do it right. Managed to get Korlik in a private instance with Niraj, and I just roleplay as Tim the Toolman's neighbor again and just pass him drinks as he gets exhausted. We actually kill Korlik in a very impressive fashion, keeping alive and getting rid of their source of amplified damage, so that's one good thumbs up. Madok is next, and he's got some irritatingly high strength for a throw barb. He must have a lacerator or some shit, but anyway, it's easy to dispatch him as well because Madok has lower defenses and just dies immediately. That's the throw barb I know and love. 2 down. Now that's insane. We literally have just won. We've got this. It's done. How can a 1v1 be that big of a deal? We just gotta walk forward and claim this challenge as being my bitch. Talik, more like Talik my dick. What the fuck? Yeah, Talik. Alright, this guy. Okay, yeah. I see. This is the fucker guy who apparently can one-shot Niraj, so, you know, no choice but to reset and go back to town, now with the express knowledge that I need Talik to die before I get excited about anything. We restock again, and we get our Fade proc back on, and all the good stuff. Yay, alright, well, I'm a little less hyped this time. We tackled this attempt in the same fashion, getting the 3 segmented from each other and taking down Korlik and Madok first. And then we're back to Talik, and Niraj takes huge swaths of his health away per strike. It's all looking good, and then he fucking dies again. Okay, yes. Expected, I guess. It's once again Batman prep time. While doing the same strategy for the 3rd time, I take a gigantic hit just minding my own business. It's like getting hit by a car waiting for a bus to come hit me. So, you know, I panic, I run into a wall, and then I realize I lived, bitch, and we keep going. This time I realize the whirlwind is the big danger, so I have my finger on the teleport to safety button, and whenever Talik uses whirlwind, I teleport us to safety, wait out the spin, and then we get back to poking. That's the ticket. This time, we successfully defeat the Ancients, which is a literal golden ticket VIP pass, front row seats to the screen where Deckard oddly smiles at our face and calls us a big boy. Emboldened, excited, aroused, and pumped to be done with this challenge, we walk into the World Stone Keep together, and Bael has the worst shit ever known to man guarding this place. This dungeon is typically like this, but at this moment, it's comical how bad the RNG is. As long as I can get down to the 2nd floor waypoint, we are in the clear, although I will inform you that I've run pretty out of money at this point, having only a few 100,000 left, meaning I can't really die too much here. I find level 2, teleport frantically through a wall, and I'm killed the instant I arrive. Imagine this was hardcore, that would have been fantastic. fantastic. Now, if you wanted a perfect visual metaphor for the word desperate, this would be appropriate. I am just looking for a waypoint, as my body is a lost cause. I ate too many cakes from Walgreens, and yeah, I just fucking die again. But then I see a bridge, meaning I either found the waypoint or the next floor, and I'm so happy. It's gonna be the waypoint. It's the next floor. I decide I'm gonna do the rest of the game naked. What do I care? I'm already a useless guy. I'm already standing far away in the corner. Let's just let Niraj be the star of the show and finish this off. He dies horribly, immediately, instantly, and I'm left alone again, and I decide this isn't worth doing. I need to have my clothes back. Okay, yeah, so I reset the game. Fine, what are you gonna do? Let's just start over. Walk from the Ancient's Keep. Yeah. Fully restocked, I head back through the Ancient's Way and hope for some better Worldstone Keep luck this time around. Here's a good long story short moment. Guess what? We're out of money again. Good times. Love when this was the norm. So I start pawning things I won't need out of my collection, imagining selling my Seer rune just to piss off every single person who plays Diablo 2, but I don't go there quite yet. I recharge my teleport staff with a recipe that I totally knew and didn't forget about this entire playthrough. Please know that I'm actually a disguised genius and not a concealed chimp. Alright, long story short, again, we make it to the waypoint and then to the final room of the game. Of course there has to be Stygian dolls in here, just casually some of the worst enemies of all time. Fuck it, we ball. The 5 waves leading up to the final showdown are always variable in terms of how annoying they are. Wave 1 is never a big deal, just poke a few little gremlins, you know, that's chill. Wave 2 is annoying as Akmel and his gaggle revive undead minions, of which there are a lot of littering the room currently. Still, just a little yo-yo gameplay and this is taken care of. Wave 3 is a nuclear bomb hitting your dick, so we have to do it a little daintily. Walls and going back and forth to town preserve my cash reserves, and you know, that's alright. It's doing alright. Although even without dying, I actually am in dire need of money still for potions and scrolls, so there's more pawning for me going on. With some lucky monster brainlessness, we start making short work of this group once we head back in. Then Ventar, the Fuckar, and his group show up, and they actually aren't all that bad, surprisingly. They just do a strangely minimum amount of damage, and we chop through them pretty quickly. And of course, Wave 5, the infamous Lister the Anal Tormentor, is incredibly strong, but actually, since the mobs are so huge, they get easily hindered by Bone Prison, allowing Niraj to go massive mode and kill each of them, opening the path to the final boss of Bael. As per usual, this guy is more annoying and tedious than challenging, but I really don't want to die again. I don't have any money remaining at all. And you know, I wish I had a huge, conclusive, cool fight to describe, but I don't. It's just very, very long and boring. He doesn't even clone himself. His super move that makes it really sucks to deal with. He just sits around and shoots me with waves of frost. He does kill Niraj once, which just hyper sucks, but I can throw more of my goods away. Mala has the money. She can float me another friend. And yeah, we go back inside. Bael sees us alive and says, "What the fuck is this shit?" And we kill him, and I actually exaggerated. He spawned like 40 clones, and the fight is the longest, most tedious, slivery fight you've ever seen before, but you know, it wasn't worth talking about. Still, I have nothing but time. Definitely don't have any money, and in this corner, I sit like a proud, demented father and see Niraj conquer all 3 difficulties and secure my place as the hero of Sanctuary, while he goes back to living in Grease's house for 2,000 bucks a month and dies alone. That is the end of his story. And there it is, Deckard Cain smiling at me with true love and admiration for this chain-smoking, couch-sitting, bone-collecting dickhead who saved the day and allows Deckard to go forth and be killed by a butterfly woman later. What a life! And now we have concluded the journey. The challenge run I made a video on like 5 months ago is now over. Oops, you have watched, enjoyed, liked, commented, subscribed, suckled me, and now we can go forward to more videos about other horrible ideas together. Like, can you beat Diablo 2 with only Amp Lisa? Or can you beat Diablo 4 without getting bored? Questions for later, but for now my question is, why are you still here looking at me? I have nothing left for you. Leave now. Thank you. Goodbye.